guys, so the first thing I did was attach the foam to the board. You want to make sure that you spray good even coats and then press down firmly to make sure that they adhere to one another. My foam is actually a mattress topper that I got from Walmart, and I went ahead and adhered it to the board, and now I'm just cutting it out so that for I have made sure that I only cut out what I need. So the mattress topper was just a little shy of covering the actual length of the board, so I'm just taking the leftover that I had and just adding it back on there to make sure it fully covers the whole board. So my board is 81 inches wide and 47 inches tall. The length that I kind of followed for this was 32 inches tall. So I just marked off from both the top and the bottom 6 inches. And starting from those 6-inch marks, I went down 8-inch intervals. Now, all I'm doing is starting from the very middle of my board and counting across from my middle space 8 inches out. So each 8 count, I mark a line. Now I'm just counting to see how much I have left over to make sure that it adds up on the other side. Now, you can use a straight edge or a yardstick ruler or whatever you prefer, but I'm just eyeballing it at this point and just marking the rest of my board as I see fit. Now, once again, you can use whatever you want to use. I'm just using my calendar and going from point to point, and in the middle of my point I'm just marking an X, and that's where my button is going to go. So this is the drill bit that I'm using. I ordered those off of Amazon. I added this clip in because my drill was actually not cooperating, and then I turned the camera off and forgot to turn it back on, but you get the gist of what I did. Also, I wanted a full look of buttons, so I added more X's, and of course I eyeballed it. So I added more X's to it just so that the board will have more of a fuller look. Now, take it from me, I personally do not recommend using a hand stapler because it hurts, but make sure you staple in those corners real good, nice and flat, just so that I have an overall better look. I had some scrap batten left over from the first time of wrapping this board, so I just used the scraps to rewrap this for the second time just to give my tufting a more in-depth look. Make sure when you guys are stapling your batten to the board that you're also pulling kind of tight just to make sure that everything is all nice and secure. Like I said, using a hand stapler hurts, so I'm just going to make sure all my staples ain't going nowhere, and I'm just going to hammer them in just to make sure they're good to go. Now, with wrapping this board twice, you can see the marks that I made only wrapping it once, but once you put 2 layers on it, it's kind of hard to see. So I would definitely recommend go ahead and puncturing your holes before you wrap it the second time. If not, it's just be ready for a little bit of a struggle. But just go ahead and find your holes and cut out the batten best as you can. Now, after doing all my research, I decided that using a power drill would be easier to do my tufting look. And overall, after I got the hang of it, I believe it was easier. But all I did was take a screw and a washer. I did try without a washer and it just kind of fell straight through. So make sure you use a washer as well, and just continue to follow out your holes that you've already set. One thing I like about using the drill is, even though I've already marked out holes and planned it out, I ended up adding more buttons than what I've already allotted out. And I didn't have to redo anything. All you have to do is press firmly down to the board and go. So if you don't like the guideline that you have set out, you can add more buttons or easily take them out. Now, because this board was big and I couldn't flip it myself, I had my husband come and staple a few just so we can flip it over and I can finish the rest by myself. So for the two side rails and the footboard, we're going to follow the exact same step as we did when we did the headboard. I'm just measuring the middle of my board so that I can mark it and draw out my lines as we did on the headboard. So my side rails are 81 inches wide as well. So I marked them out at 8-inch intervals just like we did on the headboard. From top to bottom, every 2.5-inch intervals or 2.5 count, I marked a line and drew it out. So that way I can have 3 rows of buttons. So I went ahead and did the middle row first because that's going to be my guideline. And on the top and bottom row, I'm just going to stack them. I'm going to line them up with one another to kind of give that diamond look. Then we move on and wrap with batten just like we did the headboard, and make sure we secure the batten really good to the board by pulling and folding in those corners. So I actually ran out of fabric. I didn't necessarily run out completely. It's just the piece that I had last for this one wasn't long enough to cover the 81 inches. So I just cut the piece that I had in half and then re-sewn it back together so that way it can be long enough. But all in all, I used about 7 yards worth of fabric. So it was at this moment that I decided to celebrate because I officially have all the pieces I need now to attach my bed. I did get these brackets from Lowe's. It came in a pack of 4. Now keep in mind you will need help on this part because you have to make sure that you hold your bed up or the headboard up straight so that way it's not attached crooked. So for the feet and the support beams to run across, We're just adding some wood for all of it to sit on. To attach the feet, we did run a little piece of wood across the headboard and the footboard in the corners just to make sure that we will have somewhere to attach the brackets to. You don't necessarily have to add the wood. If you want to just attach the brackets to the bed frame itself, you can, but we wanted some screws to run through the top of this as well, since those feet posts were homemade. So we got 5 1-inch wood planks cut out at 79 inches a piece. It seemed a little flimsy, so we're just adding an extra piece of wood just to make sure that we have that extra added support underneath. And there's the final look.